So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. And we'll back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network Podcast here today. It is Monday, February 15th. Everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Monday, February 15th here today. We got a lot of sports to get to coming out of the weekend. Hope everybody had a good weekend. A lot of good sports this weekend, even though the NFL was not on. Obviously, there was no NFL games this weekend. The first weekend without the NFL. It was a little odd. Obviously, not having a game on Sunday to talk about, or to watch, I should say, and a game on Monday to talk about. Obviously, coming onto the podcast and not having a game to talk about. But at the same time, it's good that, the other sports are on. I was watching a hockey game. I was watching the Avalanche and Golden Knights. I actually watched the whole game. That was a good game. I saw some of the basketball games and stuff. Obviously Nets, Kentucky, stuff like that. But overall, it was a good weekend of sports. It was a pretty good weekend of sports. I thought without football, I thought it was going to be a little odd. With no games on Sunday, I thought it was going to be a little odd. Usually on Sunday, there's at least something on. Whether that's one game, two games, three games, or all your NFL games. I thought it was going to be a little odd. But for the most part, with all the other sports on, NBA, NHL, college, for the most part, it was another good sports weekend. To kind of recap it. Kentucky got a big win against Auburn, a really solid win for Kentucky. Obviously came onto the podcast, and I thought they would win. Just something about that Kentucky team. They've been fighting. They've been able to really stay in games these past couple weeks. These past couple games, I should say, and really in the past couple weeks. We've been losing, but we've been able to fight and be able to stay in the games. So I had a feeling they were going to win that game. They obviously did. Made a comeback, had a big 52-point second half. Our second half points this season have been terrible, but we were able to really turn it up 182-80. Nets got a good win against the Warriors on Saturday as well. That game was later. Yesterday, the Rangers were supposed to play. The game got postponed. That game got postponed a couple days before, though. Rangers play tomorrow, and Nets play tonight. Knicks play tonight, all that good stuff. Nets tonight against the Kings is their second game of their West Coast trip. So these are the topics for today. We got Justin Turner re-signs with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So we'll get into that. Big move for the LA Dodgers. Big move for Justin Turner. Big move really for the MLB, as this just goes to show you again why this Dodgers team is just going to be such a dangerous team to go up against, and why this Dodgers team is going to be such a dangerous team to face, and just a dangerous team in general, and a really good shot at possibly making the World Series again, as we round only 2 days away from pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training. And I was looking at the Yankees schedule because it got released. I was looking at the Yankees schedule the other day, or actually yesterday. Yesterday was officially 2 weeks away from the New York Yankees first spring training game. So we are now only 13 days away from the Yankees' first spring training game, which is on February 28th. And then we are officially 2 days away from pitchers and catchers reporting. And, obviously with that great stuff, that's going to be fun. And then the rest of the teams and rest of the players report, and then we'll have spring training will be in full swing. So that's going to be super exciting. But then we got Justin Turner. Then we got James Paxton and the Mariners, / MLB and the Yankees. James Paxton signs a contract with the Seattle Mariners, so we're going to get into that. Tell you why that is a interesting move. He obviously leaves the Yankees, so I'm personally happy about that. I know there's a lot of Yankees fans out there that weren't happy about it. I know there's some Yankees fans out there who enjoyed James Paxton. I didn't. I couldn't stand him. He was a terrible pitcher, had injury problems. I didn't like him. Get rid of him all you want. He signs with the Mariners. I'll tell you why this could be a decent move for the Mariners. I'll tell you why. I don't think it will be, but it could, and I'll tell you why. He started his career there. There's a certain type of pitcher that sometimes fits on certain type of teams. I'll get into that. Then to finish out the podcast, we got college basketball, Kentucky, NBA, NHL, fantasy, and your rest of your New York sports update. Like I said, Nets play today. Rangers play tomorrow. Kentucky play on Wednesday. So Nets obviously tonight, which is the main game for me. I'll be watching that game. That game comes on at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so I'm sure there's some of the other games as well be on there. But that's your really that's your sports for today. So those are all the topics for today. With all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So Justin Turner re-signs with Dodgers on a reported 2-year contract worth over $30 million. Justin Turner is returning back to Los Angeles, returning back to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and returning back to a team that is not only the defending the World Series champions, but trying to go for another World Series championship. This is a big deal for the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is a big move for Justin Turner. 2 years, $30 million. I'm going to be the first to say it. He deserves every penny of it. This is a guy that has been dominant pretty much his entire career with the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's been dominant really just his entire career. This has been a guy that's been so consistent. I always say on this podcast, especially in baseball, because baseball is one of those sports where you really got to be consistent. If you're not consistent in baseball, you're going to struggle. Especially in baseball. You got to be consistent in baseball. Justin Turner is one of those guys that is going to be a consistent hitter and infielder. This is a guy that is not only going to be solid at the plate, but he's also going to be solid at third base. And that is one of the big keys to me. Is a guy that can play both sides of the field. You see those guys out there that might be a really strong hitter, but might really struggle at first or at their infield position. And there's also some guys out there that are really strong infielders, but they're not great hitters. And you see some guys, rare to see. You see some guys that are, kind of those guys that, could do a little bit of both. They can play the infield and be a solid hitter. And then there's some guys like Justin Turner, it's very rare to see, that are amazing at both. They can make plays in the infield and make big plays at the plate. A guy like a DJ LeMahieu can do that. He's a very good infielder, a very good hitter, overall just a very good player, and that is a big key for the New York Yankees, but that's a big key for the Los Angeles Dodgers, getting a guy in Justin Turner back. The Dodgers, to be honest, and then I'll get into some of the Justin Turner stuff. The Dodgers, to be honest, I know a lot of people have been talking about all these other moves that have went on with the Blue Jays, with the Blue Jays, the Mets, the this, the that. The Dodgers, I really believe, have secretly, even the Padres, the Dodgers, I really believe, have secretly won free agency in a way. And I don't want to say they won it, but I want to say they really did a great job. And here's the reason. They did not go out and get all these great players. They didn't. They really didn't need to. The Dodgers filled the holes they needed to fill. Obviously, Jock Peterson isn't going to remain. He's obviously with the Cubs. I've talked about it on the podcast. He obviously went to the Cubs. But in terms of Justin Turner, in terms of getting Trevor Bauer, in terms of retaining the players that you had on your roster of that World Series team, is a very key aspect of this offseason. Now, did the Dodgers go out and get 50 of these great players in free agency? No. As a matter of fact, they only brung Justin Turner back. But the guys they needed to retain, guys like Turner, they brung him back. Guys like Trevor Bauer, they signed him, right? Guys like that, they did what they needed to do. And this is as close, and this is what I love, is what the Dodgers are doing here. This is what you need to do. A year after you win the World Series, or in any sport, Stanley Cup, NBA Finals, Super Bowl, World Series, whatever you're talking about, a year after that, sometimes teams feel the need to go out and try to get all these big name players, try to go out and release some of their other guys and try to change the roster and just try to go for more. That is not what you want to do. When you are an organization in sports, your whole goal is to try to retain the same team you had when you won a World Series. We've seen this a lot with teams where they go out and try to do all this different stuff just to get back to another championship. Whatever sport that is in. I said it. This could be in NHL. This could happen in the NFL. This could happen in the NBA. This could even happen in the MLB. Right? An example, NBA, a pure example last year, Houston Rockets with James Harden. They felt the need to go out and get Russell Westbrook. Look what's happening now. Neither of them are there. Houston Rockets are about to enter a mass rebuild. They did not win a championship, but they tried too hard to get to a championship when really what they had was working for them. Same thing here with the Houston Texans. right? This isn't winning a championship, but they almost got to a championship. They almost got to the Super Bowl. They felt the need to go out and just trade everything and try to just make more impact. They got rid of DeAndre Hopkins. Look at where they are now, about to enter a big rebuild. We've seen this with so many teams. The Kansas City Royals. They won the World Series back in 2016. They felt the need to get, or 2015, they felt the need to get every single great player out there. They felt the need to trade a lot of their players and try to get more players and stuff like that. They felt the need to change up their team completely, and they thought they could win it all. They are now about 5 years into a rebuild, okay? Ever since that, they've been rebuilding. We saw the same thing with the Mets. They made the World Series. They felt the need to get more players. They felt the need to go out there and try to get as many players as they can. They did not stick with their team. They are now still going through a rebuild. They could be coming out of this year. I don't know. We got to see. They're good on paper. We got to see what they do on the field, right? Same thing with the Dodgers. And the Dodgers did it the right way. They knew they won a World Series. This roster did great. And they went out. They did not get 50 new guys. They did not go out and get all these new players and leave all the old ones. They went out, got a couple players that they needed to get. They re-signed Justin Turner. They got Trevor Bauer. And now all of a sudden they've only added on to a World Series team with a little bit. They did not do much to this roster. It's not like they gave away their 3 best players for some other players. They did this. They kept this roster the same. And I'll tell you what, if I was a Dodgers fan, I would be super happy with the way this free agency and this offseason went. You did not make the biggest splashes ever. I mean, you got Trevor Bauer. But other than that, you did not make the biggest splashes ever. But that's because you didn't need to. Sometimes teams, when everyone starts talking about, oh, their championship, oh, this, sometimes teams feel the need to go out and get all these different players when really the roster they had was working for them. And the Dodgers did it the right way in this situation. Bringing back Justin Turner, getting Trevor Bauer, they did it the right way. And I'm going to tell you what, this is definitely a capable team of going to the World Series once again. And hopefully in the World Series, if they make it, they're facing my New York Yankees, because that would be a very fun matchup. Hopefully that happens. And obviously hopefully the Yankees win it all. That's obviously my hope, but we'll see how that goes, right? So same thing here with the Dodgers. This is going to be a very fun team to watch. This deal makes the whole NL West a whole lot more interesting, because if you don't re-sign Justin Turner, you have a third base problem now, right? And you don't have that. You have a third base problem now. But they re-signed him, right? And like I said, they might have not made the biggest splashes, right? That's the same thing with the Mets. With all this money, with all this talk, they barely got anyone, right? Outside of Lindor and a couple other smaller guys, right? With all this money and stuff, the Dodgers have a lot of money. But they did what they needed to do because they realized this team is working for them. This is how organizations in sports should work. When you realize something's working for you, you keep it that way. That's when we start to see hangovers. That's when we start to see teams, that's when we start to see, you talk about World Series or a Super Bowl hangover, right? That's when you start to see teams try too hard to get back that they fail. Just keep the team you have, and you'll be in a good position. That's what the Los Angeles Dodgers did here. Now, I said earlier in the podcast about Justin Turner, right? About how he can play both sides, the hitting, and really good at third base. This is a guy, I'm big into contact hitters and stuff, but this is a guy that will definitely, he's a power guy. He'll go out there and he's going to hit for power. He's going to be that kind of guy. To be honest, I'm surprised Justin Turner really wasn't that bigger of a name in free agency. I know you had Springer, LeMahieu there for a little bit, but for the most part, LeMahieu was kind of stuck with the Yankees. Lindor wasn't a free agent, but in a way he was. You just had to trade for him. Springer, different guys, various players, right? We all saw it, right? Various players, various teams and stuff like that. And to be honest, Justin Turner really wasn't, he wasn't one of the household guys that everyone was looking at. The Brewers, I know, caught up with him. I know a couple teams did. But to be honest, I really think this might be one of the steals in free agency. Because this is a guy that's been with your team for a very long time. He actually got drafted. He was brought up by the Mets. He actually played with the Mets for a little bit. Then, obviously, came over to the Dodgers. He's a veteran. He brings a veteran presence to, a younger team like a Bellinger and guys like that. And really builds their infield. And that's one big thing. I'm a big guy into defense. I really believe that the saying defense wins championships is so true. I really don't believe that's just a made-up saying. Defense does win championships. If you know, we saw it against. I know I'm not just trying to change the topic here, but we saw it with the Buccaneers Chiefs, right, with the Buccaneers and Chiefs, right? With the Buccaneers defense dominated. They won the championship. It didn't matter how good the Chiefs offense was. The Buccaneers pass rush was too much. Same thing here, right? Dodgers, it doesn't always matter how good your hitting is. If you don't have a good defense, you're not going to win at all. And the Dodgers here are helping their defense out big time, bringing Justin Turner back. Like I said earlier, with his power hitting, very good power hitter. He's getting a little bit up there in age, but this is a guy who still is playing at a very high level. In the 2 years, I think is great because this is a guy in 2 years that he's going to be able to do it all. Now, when the 2 years is up, are they going to re-sign him? I don't know. That's 2 years from now. We'll talk about it then. But that's a story for them. But I don't know if he's going to get re-signed in 2 years from now. But all I could say is this was a smart decision. You're not signing a guy that's a little bit older now to a 5-year deal, hoping that he does everything he can to look like he was, a couple years ago. This is a guy who's still very well in his prime, though. I definitely think this is kind of his prime. It might be coming a little bit out of his prime, but it's definitely a guy that's still about in the center to, a little bit, later on in his prime. This is still a guy that's going to go out there, give you quality plays, power hitter, contact. He's one of those guys where base is loaded. This is going to be a guy you want up. I can't talk highly of Justin Turner. And his defense is just so good, too. His defense is so underrated. And that's another thing, too. His defense is so underrated because his hitting is so good. We saw it in the World Series with his hitting. This was a guy who was able to really, stretch the field, really go out there and just dominate on almost every aspect of the game. He's a baseball smart player. He does it all. Bat, field, you give him a pitch outside, he's going to take that pitch to right field. You give it inside, he's going to pull that thing. You give him one down the plate, that thing's in the stands, someone's got that ball, right? Whatever the case may be, he's going to make you count on bad pitches. This is a guy, he's very tough to pitch to, too, because he's very good in the zone. You pitch him outside, he's going to take that ball to right field. He's one of the more, like I said, consistency. He's not going to be a guy that's going to strike out 50 times. Or strike out 500 times in a year. He's going to be a guy that's he's going to have consistency. He might be more towards the power side, but he's not like a guy that's going to be strikeout or nothing. He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to hit solid line drives, singles, doubles. He's got a decent speed on him. I wouldn't say he's the fastest. I think he's faster over at third base with his gloves and his reaction time and stuff. But when you got 110 mile an hour ball coming right at you, he's pretty quick there. But his base running speed isn't the fastest, but that's also just because how he's built. Not every guy is going to be able to go out there and steal 25, 30 bases a season. Not every guy is that fast. But in regards to this, he's not crazy fast, but, when he gets to third base, he definitely has some speed to his glove. His bat speed's very good. Like I said, I think this is one of the better free agents out there, with Bauer and stuff like that. And they're bringing back a guy that's a pivotal part. This was a guy that was a pivotal part of the World Series team, like I said, with the outside pitching, the inside pitching. You try to pitch him high and outside, he's going to take that pitch. He's very baseball smart. And that's what I love to see out of players, is when they're baseball smart. When they know that a pitch is coming in, they don't like it, they're going to go. Right? They're not going to swing out of their shoes. They're not going to see a pitch coming in, swing out of their shoes for no reason. They're not going to do that. They're not going to go like this, see a pitch coming in high, and just absolutely swing at it. They're not going to do that. They aren't going to do that. What he's going to do is he's going to stay patient in the box, and if a pitch comes, he's going to hit it. He's going to be smart up there at the plate. He's going to do everything he can. He's very rare does he chase pitches. Now, everyone chases pitches every once in a while. Like I said, this is more of a guy that's going to be a power hitting kind of guy, but still, very good guy, very good, consistent. That's another thing. Consistency is key. If you're a guy that's going to hit a home run, then strike out the rest of the game, that's a problem. If you're a guy that's going to hit a home run, 2 singles maybe, then maybe a strikeout, I'm okay with that, right? If you strike out, it's not striking out's not good, but it's different if you strike out once than 3 times, right? If you if you hit a home run and strike out 3 times, or maybe you get 4 at bat, or maybe you get 5 at bats that game, and you strike out 4 times, right? That's a problem. But really, one of the big things here is Justin Turner. Doesn't strike out much. This is a guy that's going to, hit it. He's gonna hit it with a lot of power, and he's gonna hit the long ball, but he's also going to be able to, control his swing, not swing out of his shoes at pitches at the plate. And like I said, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but when he gets to third base, his reaction time with those fastballs, look it up. Justin Turner highlights. Justin Turner's first base. Whatever the case may be. Look it up. He's a very solid third baseman. Very solid player. Dodgers are re-signing a key asset to this team. Now we move on here to the article. So Justin Turner re-signs with Dodgers on a reported 2-year contract worth over $30 million. Third baseman Justin Turner announced Saturday he is returning to the defending World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. Turner wrote this on Twitter. He said, "Let's go, run it back, Dodgers fans." And he wrote, he's LA, he's here to stay. All that stuff with Justin Turner. So obviously he seems very excited to be back. Let's see. So Jeff Passan of ESPN reported it's a 2-year contract worth over $30 million. Turner attracted free agent interest from numerous teams per John Heyman of MLB Network and WFAN Sports Radio. The Dodgers and Milwaukee Brewers offered multi-year deals, and the New York Mets, Atlanta Braves, and Toronto Blue Jays also expressed interest. Ultimately, Turner chose to return to the Dodgers for his 8th season in LA. Turner, a 12-year MLB veteran, has taken the field for the Baltimore Orioles, New York Mets, and Dodgers. His best years have occurred in LA, where Turner signed as a free agent before the 2014 season. He had a team-high 307 with 4 home runs, 23 RBIs, and a 860 OPS in 2020. Turner had 302 and posted a 886 OPS in 7 seasons in Los Angeles. Turner has hit. He's added 116 home runs, 406 RBIs, and 177 doubles. He made the 2017 National League All-Star Game and finished in the top 10 in the NL MVP voting in 2016 and 2017. The Southern California native hit over 300 4 times with LA, including a career-high 340 in 2014. The 36-year-old has also notably excelled on the postseason stage, hitting .320 with a 1.066 OPS during the 2020 World Series. He's hit .295 lifetime during the playoffs, in addition to garnering an .899 OPS. Adding Turner back to the mix helps the Dodgers keep a World Series core that looked unstoppable at times last season. They're the clear World Series favorites, especially with Turner returning and National League Cy Young Award winner Trevor Bauer signing with the team. And that says it all. The postseason. I said in the postseason he was big for them last year. He's been big in his career. This was huge right here. 320 in the postseason last season, and his career lifetime in the postseason is 295. And I've always said this, and actually this kind of meshes a little bit with my next topic, with James Paxton. I'll get into that in a little bit here. But in terms of Justin Turner, this is a guy that the big stage. The bright lights doesn't faze him. And that's something big. Personally, that's big. If I see a player that bright lights, if he excels, in a way, maybe at times he's better when there's more pressure on him than when there isn't, right? I like those players a lot. And that's a guy like a Justin Turner here. 295 batting average in the playoffs. When you're in a big market like the Dodgers, I was actually looking a couple days ago because I was talking to some people about it because we were just wondering, what the franchises and some of these big franchises. So the Cowboys, I think, in sports have the richest franchise. And the Dodgers are like 4th or 5th, I think, out of the entire richest franchises. So this isn't no tiny franchise he's playing for. This isn't no, I'm not trying to be mean, but this isn't no Miami Marlins or no... if he's playing for this isn't no tiny team. This isn't no Cincinnati Reds smaller franchise. This is a big franchise in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Dodgers, all the greats there and stuff like that have came through Los Angeles and played for them, the Brooklyn Dodgers, Los Angeles Dodgers. Right? This is a very storied franchise. This isn't no tiny franchise that not many people know about and barely makes the playoffs. This is a big name franchise with a lot of big name players, and most of all, one of the most known states in the world and one of the most known cities in the country in Los Angeles, right? Los Angeles, bright lights either way. Lakers, Dodgers, all the rich franchises are there, right? The money, all that stuff. This is a guy who excels when it comes to that. 295 batting average. A 899 OPS, that's his career. And last season he had 8.66 OPS. So this is a guy, the bright lights, the fans, the loud cheering doesn't faze him. If anything, he hits better with that. And I would be interested one day to look at that, to look at his numbers in the regular season and look at his numbers in the playoffs. And this even goes back to some players. I mean, there's some players that are just so much better in the playoffs. I mean, like I said, there's so many different types of players. There's some players that, like a Turner, excel under the bright lights. There's some players that don't excel under the bright lights. They're better in the regular season. Come playoffs, they stink. To be honest, if you're going to turn into local terms, Masahiro Tanaka used to play for the Yankees, obviously now in Japan. He's a guy that was dominant in the playoffs, wasn't so dominant in the regular season. A guy like a Stanton, he's been able to the past couple seasons, even last year, really played well in the playoffs, has been okay in the regular season. Different guys are the way they are. There's some guys that are great all year round, right? Some guys are great all year round. There's some guys that are dominant in the regular season, dominant in the playoffs. There's some guys that are dominant in the regular season and okay in the playoffs, right? Right? Some guys stink in the playoffs. They can't do anything. Then there's some guys that are amazing in the regular season. Turner's one of these guys that is both good and very good in the playoffs. Excels under the bright lights. When all the people are watching, millions and millions and millions and millions of people are watching you, that is something huge for Justin Turner. And that is something, too, part of the reason maybe why they wanted to re-sign him was they know that this team is probably going to make another playoff run, and they know how big of a contributor he has been in the playoffs, and that's big. And it's another thing, too. The other team that are looking at him, like a Milwaukee Brewers and Mets, those two teams you could say are trying to make playoff pushes, right? Mets being in New York, a big market, right? They could have looked at him and say, hey, we're trying to make a playoff push. We get there. This guy has been dominant in the playoffs. And that's something big. Playoff baseball, as a fan, it's something different too. Playoff baseball is just something different. I mean, playoff baseball is one of the most energetic things in the world. It's so much fun to watch. You could even make the argument playoff baseball is better than some of the other playoffs in any other sports. There's something about playoff baseball that it just hits different than a regular season game. I mean, you could say the same thing about football, but even football, I feel like the fans are always involved in football, but when it comes playoffs, they're even more. But I feel like baseball, sometimes the fans aren't always involved in the regular season. Come playoffs, they're just playoff, and Justin Turner excels under that. So let's look at some of his other stats here as I'll pull up his stats. So let's look up at his some of his other stats. And this is another guy too in the World Series, right? I mean, this is a guy too that was going against the Rays. Blake Snell, Charlie Moore, and Tyler Glass now. 3 very good pitchers. Now, obviously, Morton and Snell are not on the team. Morton's in Atlanta and Snell's with the Padres, and Glass now still there. But it wasn't like they were going against some team that was their weakness was their pitching. The Rays' actually strength was their pitching. So it just goes to show you even more there. But 2020 stats, he had 150 at-bats, 307 batting average, 4 home runs, 23 RBIs, 1 stolen base, and an OPS of 860. His MLB career stats are 3,521. Career batting average of 292, 124 home runs, 495 RBIs, 35 stolen bases, an OPS of 838. Like I said, the 292 batting average in your career just goes to show you he's a good contact, low strikeout kind of hitter, a guy that's going to get contact. That is not a power hitting average. He's a good power hitter. He can definitely launch the ball. But that is not a power hitting average is like a 260, 250. This is a solid contact, doubles, singles, maybe squeeze out a triple batting average right there. That is what I see this batting average. A very solid batting average. And this is another thing, too. This is a guy that's doing it. I mean, this is a guy whose debut was in, 2009. So, he's been in the league for a little bit here. Obviously, he was with Baltimore. Played with Baltimore his first season. Then played with Baltimore and the Mets in his second season. Split it there. The Mets he did pretty well with. He played 4 seasons with the Mets. He did decent with the Mets, wasn't amazing. But then since he got to the Dodgers, and this will be his 7th year as a Dodger, or actually no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This will be his 8th year as a Dodger. Since he's gone to his Dodgers, his numbers have increased. More games, more at-bats, more hits, more runs, more doubles, more triples. He had 1 triple last season. More home runs. This is a guy, really, when he came into the league, he was hitting 4.227 home runs. Got to the Dodgers, and then it was 7 home runs. It was, he's just gotten better. 340 batting average with the Dodgers that 1 year. 295, 294, 275, 312, 322. You know how hard that is to stay in the 300s for an entire year? To have a 300 batting average for an entire year? That is very difficult. And if you say that's not difficult, I don't know how that could be. Very difficult to maintain a over 300 batting average for a season. It's hard enough to get into the 300s. It's even harder to get into the 300s when you are, it's even harder to get into it, stay in the 300s for an entire year. Especially when pitchers start to pick you up, start to realize, oh, this guy, he hits this pitch well, but he doesn't hit this. It's another thing. Consistency. He's never had really an inconsistent year. Look, all of his batting averages stay around the 270 to 290 mark. To about the 300 mark, right? 322, 312, 290, 307, 375, 294, right? 307 this season. All those batting averages are around the 290 to 320 mark. That's consistent. It's not like 1 year he's batting 320, next year he's batting 240. 1 year he's batting 290, next year he's batting 180. It's batting 290, it's 310, it's 300, it's 292 in his career, right? Consistency, right? That is a big deal right there, is consistency. And that's why they're giving him the money, and he deserves the money. This is not a guy that's going to go out there and be paid just to hit home runs or just to hit 3 hits in 20 games. It's a guy that's going to go out there, play every day, play good third base, be excellent at the plate. Very good move for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And now we move on to our next topic here. Coming up next, James Paxton returns to where it all started for him. He goes back to the Seattle Mariners where he began his career. I will tell you why this is an interesting move for the Mariners, how it could work, and how it may not work. I'll tell you why coming up next. Alrighty, so let me get this up here. So James Paxton, who was a member of the New York Yankees just last season, is now returning to where it all began for him with the Seattle Mariners. So ex-Yankees starting pitcher James Paxton, Mariners reportedly agree to 1 year, $8.5 million contract as he returns back to Seattle, where it all began from him. Obviously, the Yankees traded for him about 2 years ago. I don't like the trade. I actually didn't like when it happened. I will tell you why I didn't like it when it happened. We gave up our number 1 prospect in Justice Sheffield, who is now having a very good time in Seattle, who is now doing very good in Seattle. So we gave up him, and I was not happy about that. And one of the moves that I've disliked out of Brian Cashman. One of the many moves I've disliked out of Brian Cashman. There's been a couple of moves I've liked. I like that fact that he got Cole. Stanton move. I like Stanton a lot. But I think he just got, if he stays healthy, he'll be definitely good. I'm not a big fan of this whole pitching staff. The the Paxton moves, neither were good. I look at it as this, right, for the Mariners, and I'll go to the Yankees as well. I look at it as this for the Mariners. The Mariners are, this is one of these deals, and I was talking about the other day when I was talking about Jonathan VR going to the Mets. This is one of these deals that you're not investing 5 years on this guy, hoping that he does what he did in his first part of it, because he did throw a no-hitter with the Mariners, right? This is not a guy that is, this is not a deal that's going to be asking you to be their best pitcher, for you to win a Cy Young, right? This is a deal. He's coming off of a back surgery, obviously. He had it last season. This is a deal that you hope he can be close to what he was, be a solid pitcher, maybe have a 290, 310, 320 ERA, go out there, give you a solid 5-6 innings, do your job, and that's it, right? Something like that. And that's how I think it is with the with the Yankees here, or with the Mariners, right? This is a low-risk deal. If he struggles, then he goes ahead and he's done, right? He's not going to be in a Mariner next season. If he does well, then you're like, okay, maybe we sign him back for a year or maybe two. And if he continues to do well, so on and so forth, you can give him as much as you want. But to stand right now, right here, and go ahead and say that's a bad move, I don't know if I would say that. It's an interesting move. I'll tell you why. Because this is a guy that's getting older, right? He's had some injuries. And to be getting older to begin with isn't great in sports. Mix that with injuries, and an injury to a pitcher that's a back injury while getting older, those do not mix at all. As a matter of fact, that's a lot of times where players' career may start to come to an end. When they get arm injuries or they get back injuries and they start to get older and they lose gas a little bit and they don't have much gas on their fastball and they don't have much velocity left and stuff like that, that's a lot of times a signal to a player where, you know what, I might have to hang up the cleats. So it's why it's an interesting move. But at the same time, Paxton started his career here, he almost won a Cy Young, he threw a no-hitter, all that stuff. He did all that. And now he's coming back to the place where he began. Maybe he finds that same success. Now, as for the New York Yankees, I look at this for the New York Yankees with them not re-signing him. I look at it as the Yankees are getting rid of their biggest problem. Hap, they didn't re-sign. That was one of their biggest problems. And James Paxton, they didn't re-sign. That was one of the biggest problems. So I didn't look at this as, they're getting rid of a really good player, and man, I wish we could have kept him. I look at this as, you know what? It's good for both sides. They didn't re-sign him. Paxton struggled with us. The New York media was tough on him. He really struggled, and he blew a lot of games. And now he's going to the place where he began, where he found success. I look at it as, you know what? He wasn't successful here. If he's successful there, that's not on you. He's just better there. And like I said, and this goes to show, this is what I wanted to get into with Justin Turner, right? There's a different type of player. Each player is a little different. Some guys are small market players. Some guys are big markets. I said this with Justin Turner. Some guys excel under the bright lights. Some guys are scared of the bright lights. James Paxton may be one of these guys that is a smaller organization, smaller team pitcher. Sonny Gray was with a small organization, the Oakland Athletics, came to the Yankees, big organization, big media market, bright lights, was terrible. Goes to the Cincinnati Reds, was amazing last season, right? There's sometimes guys that are big market pitchers. There's some guys that excel. Garrett Cole, when he was with a small market in the Pirates, he was okay. Went to the Astros, made the World Series, the bright lights on him, he was dominant. Same thing with the Yankees. He was dominant. There's some guys that are better under the bright lights than they are not under the bright lights. There's some guys that are scared of the bright lights. There's some guys that could do both. You put me on a small market team or you put me on a big market team, I could do both. James Paxton looks like a guy that would be a small market pitcher. And there's nothing wrong with that. That could just mean that the media, the pressure catches up with him. That there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said again, that's not a bad thing. There's a ton of them out there. We see it even in football. Maybe a guy like a Sam Darnold, maybe he's better off with a smaller team like the Colts, or, the Steelers are a pretty big name team. But like the Colts or something like that. Same with Carson Wentz. Instead of dealing with the Philadelphia media and all the fans, maybe he's better off with a smaller team. This is the James Paxton situation. He struggled with the Yankees. Maybe he's better off with a smaller team where he began with the Seattle Mariners. And that a lot of times is the case. And that's why I think this is an interesting move, but you could also look at this move as a bad move. You could look at this move as a bad move, but you could look at this move as a good move. It's tough to judge this move yet, but you could look at it, hey, he was dominant with the Mariners. He's coming back. he's a smaller market pitcher, something like that. Or you could look at it as, oh, he was struggling with the Yankees, got all those injuries and stuff like that. He's getting older now. He's not the same. We'll see how it goes. But like I said, it's a deal. It's only 1 year. It's only a 1 year deal. So it's not like you're investing, not like you're giving him a 10-year deal and you're hoping that he is what he was. Right? It's a 1 year deal, a lower risk deal, and you just gotta hope that this deal goes well. That's the whole thing here. So ex-Yankee starting pitcher James Paxton, Mariners reportedly agreed to 1 year, $8.5 million contract. Starting pitcher James Paxton is moving on from the New York Yankees and returning to the Seattle Mariners. Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Mariners. Agreeing to a contract Saturday, according to Sportsnet Chad Day. Jeff Passan wrote this. Left-handed James Paxton and the Seattle Mariners are in agreement on a 1 year deal for $8.5 million. Has some reachable bonuses that could take it to $10 million. Paxton started 5 games for the Yankees in 2020, going 20.13 innings with 6.64 ERA, a 1.48 WHIP, and 26 strikeouts and 7 walks. A flexor strain derailed his season in August as New York's once again played throughout a plethora of injuries. With Paxton entering his age 32 season, his agent Scott Boras said the lefty rushed a return from February 2020 back surgery, but will be ready to go for the 2021 season. Boras told Brendan Cuddy of the NJ Advanced Media in October, the truth of the matter was his ability to be James Paxton. It just needed a few months more of rehab on his back and his strength. Getting the velocity, getting the balance, and being able to torque his back in the way it was. Just after the surgery, he just needed time. That's all. We're seeing him back to normal now. In his throwing, you can really see the difference. The Mariners apparently agreed to Boras' assessment as they added Paxton back to the rotation after his first stint with the club lasted from 2013 to 2018. The deal comes on the heels of a 1 year, $12.5 million contract Paxton agreed to last year to remain in New York and avoid arbitration. So like I said, they say he looks better than ever. But like I said, there's players that you can't fix that they're small market guys. Paxton might be one of them. I mean, it has everything that shows that he is. Let's look at some of the numbers here. And I'm glad he's not on the Yankees anymore. I didn't like Paxton. He was terrible. And the guy would let up 20 runs a game. The guy was terrible. If I could get this up here. I mean, the guy was not good. He was not good at all. If you're saying James Paxton, that's outrageous. But this was his stats here. So his 2020 stats, he had 5 games. He went 1-1, a 6.64 ERA, 20 and a third innings pitched, 20.1 third innings pitched, 26 strikeouts and a WHIP of 1.48. His MLB career stats: 136 games, 57 and 33 is win-loss record. 3.5 ERA, 753.1 thirds innings pitched, 829 strikeouts, and a 1.21 WHIP. This is a guy who is 32 years old. He's got some injuries, so we'll see how it goes. But I mean, look at some of the seasons there with the Mariners. I mean, he was really good. He was really solid. He was a really, really, really solid career there. I mean, 150 ERA, 304 ERA, 379, 298. Came to the Yankees and could just never, really get going. And even in his first year with the Yankees, he had a 3.82 ERA. He just couldn't. Something about it, he just couldn't do it. I mean, he wasn't able to be what he was with the Mariners. And to me, that stinks because we gave up Justice Sheffield, and he was going to be fun to watch as a Yankee. But, it is what it is. You got to look at it as now as, we got some other prospects. So we got to see how it goes here. But it's going to be in this deal now with us not re-signing him. This does open the door for guys like, Davy Garcia, different guys like Clark Schmidt and guys like that, are going to benefit from this. Guys like that are, going to definitely benefit from, some of this, some of these other guys leaving. They're going to get their chance. They're going to get their opportunity to really show that they can be a solid player, right? And that's really, I think, one of the big things there. That's big. So we'll see how this deal works out. But, he could very well just be a small market guy. He could very well be. I mean, that's a very well possibility. He could be a small guy. He could be a small market guy. Like I said, there's some guys that excel under pressure. There's some guys that hide from pressure. Some guys that love it. I mean, there's some guys out there that want the spotlight on always. I mean, that's really what it comes. I mean, everyone always says playing in New York, playing in a big market. Sometimes it's not nice to you in a big market and stuff like that. You know, when you got media and stuff like that crushing you. Or, like I said, it's one or the other. It's either you're getting crushed or everyone's buying your jersey and everyone knows you, right? That's really one of the big things. So now I move on to the college basketball and the rest of this stuff here. So let's move on to the Saturday games. So Ohio State won, Oklahoma State won, Loyola Chicago won, Florida State won, Oklahoma won, Texas won, LSU won, Iowa won, Alabama won, Arkansas won, Rutgers won, Creighton won, Gonzaga won, Virginia won, and USC won. Kentucky won 82-80. Kentucky moves to 6-13 on the season. So a good win for us. Like I said, you know, if we want to finish out the year strong, that'd be nice. Like 4-2, 5-1, even 6-0, that'd be nice. But Brandon Boston, BJ Boston, had a really good game. Had a couple of really nice plays. Hit 5 3-pointers. He had a big game. They're at 17 points. Zay Jackson at 18 points and 11 rebounds. So Cam Brooks, 12 points. Those are your leaders. Brandon Boston with a huge game, and Zay Jackson as well. So a good win for us there. Big win there. Michigan won and Drake won. And then today we got Virginia, Florida State. I give Florida State the win. And as for the NBA here, on Saturday, the Suns won, Pacers won, Knicks won, and Jazz won. Nets also won, 134-117. We moved to 16-12 on the season. Good win for us there. Yesterday, the Wizards won, Pistons won, Spurs won, Timberwolves won, Trailblazers won, Thunder won, Suns won, Clippers won, Grizzlies won, and Nuggets won. And today, we got Pacers, Bulls. I give Pacers the win. Rockets, Wizards give Rockets the win. Hawks, Knicks give Hawks the win. Jazz, 76ers give Jazz the win. Warriors, Cavs give Warriors the win. And Clippers, Heat give Clippers the win. Nets also play today. Nets come in this game 16-12. Kings come in this game 12-14. The Nets are 4-point favorites. The over-unders 242.5 for this game. This game comes on at today, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Yes Network. I'll give the Nets the win. KD's not playing, though. He's got a hamstring strain, so he should be back soon. He's only going to be out like 2 games. But front end of the back-to-back for the Nets, I'll give us a win there. And then as for the NHL here, Senators won. Oh, we also got the Friday's game stuff. But Senators won, Golden Knights won, Islanders won, Canadians won, Lightning won, Blackhawks won, Blues won, Hurricanes won, Red Wings won, and Canucks won, obviously. Obviously Rangers played on Friday night. They obviously couldn't get the win there. But yesterday, Penguins won and Golden Knights won. And today we got the Blues, Coyotes give Blues the win. Blue Jackets, Hurricanes give Hurricanes the win. Sabres, Islanders give Islanders the win. Lightning, Panthers give Lightning the win. Senators, Maple Leafs give Maple Leafs the win. Blackhawks, Red Wings give Blackhawks the win. Predators, Stars give Stars the win. Jets, Oilers give Oilers the win. Canucks, Flames give Flames the win. Ducks, Sharks give Sharks the win. So, so that's that there. So that's what I got there. That's what I got there. And now we move on to fantasy basketball and hockey here. So fantasy basketball, I lost in fantasy basketball 1,632 to 1,795, or 1,795 to 1,632. So, I moved to 4-4 in the season. Got to find a way to, get back on track here with another matchup here. But these are the players I got going here. I got Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, Trae Young, Victor Oladipo, and Miles Turner. And the injury report here, Anthony Davis. Davis re-aggravated his right Achilles tendonitis. Tendonitis here during Sunday's game against Denver, and he'll undergo an MRI on Monday. Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN reports. So, hopefully that's nothing crazy because he's on my fantasy team and that's big. Hopefully it's just, something that might just take a little bit of time to heal. We'll see how that goes. And Oladipo foot will not play in Monday's game against the Wizards. Adam Spolin of Sports Radio 610 Houston reports. So, and it's Just wish the teams would be fine there. But yeah, so this is fantasy hockey. I won in fantasy hockey 132 to 108, so really played good there. I moved to 3-2 on the season, and I got a new matchup going here. These are the players I got going today. I got Jack Eichel, Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, Jamie Benn, Johnny Gaudreau, Braden Shen, Nikola Ehlers, Joe Pavelski, Ryan Ellis, Duncan Keith, Adam Larson, Brock Beausere, and my goalies are Jacob Markstrom and Semyon Varlamov. Some of the injury reports here. Steven Stamkos day-to-day. Stamkos' lower body remains day-to-day despite being activated from NHL's COVID-19 protocol Sunday. Brian Burns of the Lightning's official site reports. Artemi Panarin still day-to-day with the lower body stuff. He should be back, though. Shea Theodore is also day-to-day. Theodore, undisclosed, did not take pregame warm-ups, indicating he'll miss Sunday's game versus the Avalanche. David Schoen at the Las Vegas Review-Journal reports that's the same stuff there. But yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got there for fantasy hockey there. So going pretty good for fantasy. Going pretty good. But yeah, with all that being said, that'll do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. It was another very good podcast in the books. A lot of good sports news, a lot of good baseball stuff, a lot of baseball stuff coming up. So that should be really, really, really good. But yeah, with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.